Hello, friends. Welcome to Geopolitry. Today's topic is geopolitics. Let's get started. In politics, nothing happens by accident. If it happens, you can bet it was planned that way. Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Geopolitics focuses on political power linked to geography of a country, its territorial waters and land, in correlation with diplomatic history. Geopolitics is a method of studying foreign policy to understand and predict international political behavior through many factors like area, climate, topology, demography, natural resources, and technological development of the region being explained. Geopolitics is the struggle for supremacy or hegemony in the places of strategic importance. Many territorial disputes emerge as countries claim some specific strategic regions, like the dispute between Japan and China over Senkaku Islands, the dispute between China and ASEAN countries in the South China Sea, the conflict amongst India, China, Pakistan over Kashmir, and so on. Since last few years, geopolitical rivalries have been on the rise, like the US-China rivalry, the European Union and Russian rivalry, and many other regional enmities. This pandemic has just added fuel to the fire. As if growing distrust amongst countries, battered economies, and a global health crisis weren't enough, some countries are busy asserting their control over the disputed territories. What they don't realize is that such actions are just deepening the cliff of distrust and hatred to their country and bringing international forces into the bilateral and regional conflicts. This, you see, was not the expectation of CCP. Meanwhile, countries are struggling with their domestic politics. People are losing their jobs to the Wuhan virus. Millions in the developing and the developed world have been deprived of food. International bodies are under scrutiny, like WHO. There is no need to repeat the WHO stuff, as we all have been hearing this since the outbreak began. But what have we missed? I am not talking about the countries right now. I am talking about the effect of this virus on the society. We often relate poverty, hunger to the developing countries like India, Ethiopia, Bangladesh, China, etc. But this pandemic has showered light on the presence of these issues in the so-called developed world. About 54 million people in the US may experience food insecurity or hunger this year, out of which 18 million are children. One out of every four people in the UK went hungry during the lockdowns, and millions continue to struggle with it. Countries like Lebanon, Yemen are bracing for a famine, whereas countries like Brazil and India are reporting surplus crop output. They say home is where one feels loved, appreciated, and safe. But during this pandemic, millions are facing domestic violence, and most of them are women. This too is not limited to any particular region or country. Nearly all countries are a victim of domestic violence. The surge in numbers was reportedly due to the lockdown imposed in the countries. Mental health of people has also been adversely affected by the virus, as millions around the globe are suffering from depression, anxiety, and stress due to many problems generated by the outbreak. The year 2020 indeed is full of bad news and nasty power politics. The SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19 outbreak has revealed the flaws of our global system which need urgent attention. Let's see what happens next. Hope for the best, but be prepared for the worst. Game of Geopolitics. Yes, it's the Game of Thrones being played among Russia, USA, and the dragon, aka Panda or China. Political power allows one country to extend its influence, or we can say control, over other countries, the global trade, military, and the global narrative of the world. This is why the countries with this power don't want to lose it, and countries like China, Russia desperately want it. How to acquire geopolitical power? Factor number 1, geography. In order to achieve geopolitical leverage on the global stage, a country must have a geography and climate that allows for economic activities to take place freely, host large populations along with natural resources, and technological advancement. Some countries are located as strategic locations which give them geopolitical strength on the global platform, like the countries on sea trade choke points, Russia's Siberian airway route, etc. Factor number 3, wealth. Countries which have tapped their natural resources and human talent to generate wealth possess this geopolitical power as well as control over global trade. In current scenario, USA being the largest economy is the existing superpower that possesses enormous influence globally, whereas China stands behind USA as the second largest economy and is trying to grab power for itself. Factor number 3, population. A country needs to have a large pool of high quality human force in order to make utility of the previously discussed characteristics. Historically, regions with high population were more prosperous. This trend is now on resume as countries with higher population have higher growth rate and will eventually overtake the developed countries in economy as of China. This graph shows the geopolitical risks, tensions of the recent times across the globe. Geopolitics of climate change. Who's to be blamed? There is a heated debate worldwide over which countries must put the most efforts to counter the climate change. CO2 emissions of the developed countries are majorly related to its lifestyle, whereas in case of developing countries, it is the subsistence emission of CO2. Both factions blame each other for greenhouse gases emission and want the latter to make up the most for it. Europe and America took about 200 years to industrialize and are responsible for most of the historical emissions that ever happened, whereas developing countries like China and India are only recent entries in this list. Japan took 100 years to industrialize. China took 35 years. As newer countries industrialize, the time taken to do so decreases. Many call the developed countries hypocrites as they became rich and powerful by extensively polluting and exploiting the environment. But now, don't let other countries develop, despite quick industrialization and development now possible. All these debates hinder the process of reducing our emissions and creating a green earth. For now, it would be better if both factions resolved to do the maximum they can to tackle the problem of climate change. Thanks for watching Geopolitics. Please like, share and subscribe. Stay safe.